record of 38-17, a 2.58 ERA, well over a strikeout inning, 589 strikeouts in 471 in the third innings pitched. Was drafted by the Marlins in the first round in 2011. Was called up very shortly after. Didn't spend a whole lot of time in the minors. His rookie year came in 2013, and honestly, it was one of the most dominating rookie seasons ever from a starting pitcher. You could compare it to the likes of Doc Gooden, Fernando Valenzuela. Pretty much any rookie season from a pitcher. You could compare Jose's season to. That year he finished third in the National League in Cy Young voting. Also on the year, finished 12-6 in 28 starts with a 2.19 ERA. Just set the baseball world on fire, coming into the majors on, what wasn't a great Marlins team. That year he held opposing hitters to just a 182 batting average. The following year made maybe 4 or 5 starts before having to undergo Tommy John surgery, at such a young age. The question had to be on the back of everyone's mind. Would he come back the same pitcher that he was? Came back last season, I want to say in July, and, pretty much didn't miss a beat. May have been walking a couple more hitters than he normally would, but, otherwise was still looked like one of the better pitchers in baseball. This year, was having another very solid season. Don't have the stats written down, but I'm pretty sure I know. I'm pretty sure he went 16-7 or 16-8. I believe 16-7 with a 2.89 ERA. And 253 strikeouts. He was striking out something like 13 hitters per 9 innings, easily leading the major leagues with that. His 253 strikeouts are currently second in the majors, only behind Max Scherzer. Is completely back to his dominant self. Kept the Marlins afloat in this playoff race for quite some time. They faded now. But, you look at their starting staff other than him, they really don't have anyone. I mean, they signed Wei and Chen in the offseason to, a fairly large deal. He's been a bit of a disappointment and, has missed some time due to injury. Other guys, Tom Kohler, a decent guy as a fifth starter, but, throwing out guys like Jose Urena and Justin Nicolino, they both struggled, pretty much throughout the season. Adam Conley was hit or miss. You just look at that pitching staff and you think other than Jose, and you just think there's no way that they could even come close, to being a playoff team. And then you look at the offense, they definitely got some talent there, some young talent, but, Giancarlo struggled mightily to begin the season, then started heating up big time, but then he got hurt, was supposed to miss the rest of the season, but he has come back since. But he missed a fairly large chunk of time. They've had other injuries to deal with, such as Justin Bour at first base. Having to throw guys like Chris Johnson and Xavier Scruggs in at first base. Not exactly top-notch first baseman. So Jose, what else can I say about him? He just made it a lot easier to watch the Marlins. He was just so excitable, not because he was just such a great pitcher, which he truly was, but, he's a guy that he's made 2 All-Star games, rookie year this year. As I mentioned, finished third in Cy Young voting in 2013. If I had to guess, he was in line, he probably still isn't in line for a top 5 NL Cy Young finish this year. So he's just a great pitcher, but, just the excitement he brings each and every time he's on the mound. Sometimes you sit there like, all right, calm down, but that's just the player he was, and, it really is joyous to see someone like that on the mound, playing what really amounts to a kid's game. He brought the exuberance that you see from little leaguers, if they get their first hit or, something like that. Jose brought that to the table, and, it wasn't just when he was on the mound, when he was in the dugout. You'd always see him there, on the top step of the dugout, watching pitch by pitch, after his start. A lot of starters don't do that. They head to the showers, right when their start's over. Jose was there cheering on his team, after pitch, whether it's A.J. Ramos trying to close out his start or, someone else, the offense, up at bat. Jose just always had energy. You saw him sweating like crazy sometimes when he was on the mound. He just gave it his all, and it was such a thrill to see. Marlins fans agree. You look at their attendance, since he's become a pitcher. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but, it's a quite significant margin of how many more fans go to his starts than when another guy starts. I believe it was like around a 27% increase during Jose starts, and that just reminds me of another guy who started his career off with a flurry for the Miami Marlins, well then the Florida Marlins, that being Dontrelle Willis. Another former Rookie of the Year winner, 2003. That season, of course, they went on to win the World Series. Dontrelle Willis just brought so much excitement to the stadium, his first few years with the Marlins. And, that hadn't been duplicated in quite some time. Of course, the Marlins been a team since 1993. In that time, they've only made the playoffs twice, both times as a wild card, in 1997 and 2003, and both those times they were able to win the World Series. 2 World Series championships, despite never winning a division in their team history, since 1993. Jose's Marlins teams were not able to make the playoffs, and this year they stayed in the race until things happened. I didn't even mention D. Gordon's 80-game suspension after winning the batting title and stolen base title last season. So lose that bat for half a season was huge. And just one of my lasting moments of him will be from his final start, which you could argue might have been the best start of his, unfortunately brief career. I believe it was 87 career starts he will end up with. When it's against the Washington Nationals on Tuesday, I want to say. Tuesday or Wednesday. I believe it was Tuesday. I could be wrong. Went 8 innings, only gave up 3 hits, struck out 12 batters against the now NL East champion Washington Nationals, completely shut down their offense. At one point, retired 21 straight batters, and absolutely great start from Jose. Something we've seen so many times from Jose, and I remember him leaving. He's always jockeying to try to go another inning. His pitch count was I believe 111. He's still on a innings limit where they don't want to stretch him out, much further than that. So he did not go the 9th inning. But I just remember seeing him in the dugout and him and Barry Bonds, who's the Marlins hitting coach, just playing around with each other. And it really did make me laugh. He just brought so much joy and exuberance. I cannot stress that enough. It was so much fun as a Marlins fan. And as a Marlins fan, it's just been so much disappointment other than those 2 World Series years. So many years where we finished with records like 55 and 107. So many bad years around those 2 World Series years. A couple years where we were close to contention but didn't quite make the playoffs. But Jose always gave you such a great reason to watch the Marlins once out of every 5 games. You could see it from the attendance, you could see it from the TV ratings. You know, he just he just was outstanding. Not just as a player, because he was a great player. Not just the pitching. I gave you his pitching stats, but he was a superb hitter too. He had a pinch hit game winner this season against the Atlanta Braves. They brought him in to pinch hit, and he delivered the game winning hit. How many pitchers get to say that they could do that? Not too many. He has a few home runs in his career, and he was a guy that no one stole off of. In his 4 seasons, he allowed just 9 stolen bases in those 4 seasons. 9. And opponents were caught 12 times. So less than a 50% success ratio and only 21 steals against. And what did I say? 87 career starts. So you only saw a guy attempt to steal off Jose Fernandez not even quite once out of every 4 starts. He was just that good at holding runners. And this year was even better. 8 times an opponent tried to steal off him. Only 2 were successful. He only allowed 2 stolen bases the whole season in over 180 innings pitched. Do you know how incredible that is? You think Yadier Molina or Pudge Rodriguez in their prime, guys were totally afraid to run against them, but they were still running more frequently than they did against what Jose did in his career. And JT Realmuto, the Marlins catcher, definitely has a good arm, and he's still young, but he's not at the level of Yadier Molina or Pudge Rodriguez, guys like that. Guys do try to steal off Realmuto. He does have a good success rate at getting them out, but, you can't consider him one of the all-time great throwing catchers yet. So, a lot of that was due to Jose, just being able to hold runners that well. And, it's not like runners got on base that often against him. Career barely over 200 batting average against off him. As I mentioned, well over 9 strikeouts an inning. Did a lot of work around the Miami community. Of course, I live in New Jersey. I didn't get to see it firsthand, but just from reading articles and seeing videos on Marlins.com and things like that. It's easy to. Not saying it's a bad thing to donate. It's a very good thing, to do donations, things like that. But, when these young kids and people in the community actually get to see Jose's face, as he helps out, that just, that really brightens the kids' day. That's a moment they'll never forget. And, Jose was there for them. He was such a big influence, to the Latin community in Miami, which is so large. Many of you may have heard his story. If you haven't, he tried defecting from Cuba 3 times, failed, was actually thrown in prison at 15 years old for a few months. Can you imagine going to prison at the age of 15? I would be just a tad bit nervous about that, but, Jose got through that. 4th time was the charm. Finally was able to make that defection to the United States away from Cuba. The story is that someone was beginning to drown off their boat. Jose didn't know who it was. Had no idea who it was. Jumped off the boat, saved the person. It was his mother. So, Jose didn't care who it was. He wanted to save that person, and, it ended up being his mother. That's just part of the way you could see what type of person Jose was. You always saw his mother and his grandmother cheering him on in the stands. They just, the adoration he had for both those women in his life was remarkable, and you could see how much they loved, being able to see him, pitch in a Miami Marlins uniform, every 5 games. It was a treat.